Nice. So my name is Andrei. I work as a senior developer for Envato. And Envato Studio has been the product that I've been working on for the last year and a couple of months. This is what our homepage looks like. Envato Studio is a freelance marketplace for digital services where people from all over the world can find a freelancer to make them a logo, install a CMS theme for them, do some SEO optimization for their website, or do some web or mobile development, or do some photo, video, and audio editing. So Envato Studio started as a microlance about 3 years ago. The development team has changed dramatically since those days. 19 developers contributed to the source code. 16 of them have committed more than 50 commits. And the team ran a lot of tech and product experiments on Envato Studio, and when the studio was about a year and a half old, the team started a massive redesign, which included rebuilding part of the front end using React and Flux, and building an API for that and changing the underlying data model. This refactoring was finished 8 months later by a completely different team, and when Studio was 2.5 years old, it was an overgrown prototype with a lot of technical debt. And I will just mention a few things that we had in the product. We had 3 sets of style sheets, and each of them had their own issues. We had a few unique page layouts. We had a lot of duplicate and unused front-end code. We had a React plus Flux application which had no test. And we also had a backbone JS and jQuery code in the main Rails app. And we used 3 CSS grid frameworks. One of them was custom-made, kind of homegrown solution. And a lot of our front-end gems and libraries were very old. So apparently, it's really hard to evolve a product with such code base, but the team didn't want to give up. We wanted to make it better, and most of the initiatives in our roadmap were related to front-end work. We wanted to improve front-end. We wanted to introduce new types of pages. We wanted to sell new services on Envato Studio, and of course we wanted to make it mobile friendly, and we wanted to redesign it. So here are our goals that we defined for ourselves about 6 or 7 months ago. So we wanted good UX on desktop and mobile, just because this is an important thing to have. Good UX can be competitive advantage among similar products. We wanted contemporary design because many of our services are related to design, and this is important for us because if people are going to order a logo on the website, they at least expect that the website itself, the marketplace itself, will look good. We wanted good front-end performance. That also goes without saying. We wanted better SEO, especially on mobile, because the number of searches on mobile is growing, and Google started penalize the websites that are not mobile friendly, at least on mobile search a few months ago, about that time when we started thinking about that. We of course wanted faster feature delivery because we could not realistically expect to deliver any of the front-end related feature in reasonable time, and we wanted flexible and reliable code base because of that. So these were our goals. We actually probably never articulated them exactly like that, but we talked a lot about them. So that was our long-term vision. That was where we were going to be in a few months. However, having a development team working for a few months on something does not sound particularly attractive for the management. And at the same time, we had just finished our massive refactoring, which took us 8 months. We were not very happy with the results, and we didn't want to repeat the same mistakes again. So we set some constraints for ourselves. We wanted to deliver the improvements as soon as possible. We wanted to deliver them often, and we wanted to be able to pause and resume work at any time, because sometimes different things happen. We find some critical bug, we need to fix it, or some other teams may need us to do something to export some data from Studio into another product, for example. So, yeah, we decided to work to follow those constraints, and there were a few areas where we could start. We could try to apply the new design. We already had mock-ups for some of the pages. We could make some UI elements responsive at least, so they look better on smaller screens. We could start with upgrading front-end code, and we could try to remove duplicate or dead code from the project. We also could try to reduce the number of page layouts and sets of styles just to kind of reduce the complexity of the code. But since we wanted to achieve visible results as soon as possible, we decided to take the smallest useful element of the website and apply the new design to that. And that was the Paginator. It took us just 1 day to apply the new styles to that. It was a tiny step forward. It was very visible. Nothing could go wrong, and everyone was very happy. So it was our first step in Envato Studio redesign. It also gave us some insight into the design process, because at that point we had no idea how we're going to approach it. Then we decided to redesign a service card. Envato Studio sells, freelancers publish their services on Envato Studio. So service is something that people order on this marketplace, and it's like a product card on an online store. So we got the new design, and we started working on that. And we soon found out that we cannot even apply the new design to our card, just simply because the new design used a different base unit. It was 8 pixels, and our current design, at least the current design in the pages that had this card, was based on a different unit, which was not even a round number. It was calculated from font size, and in pixels it was 22.1400, so it was not even a whole number. And we decided that we have kind of 2 options. First option was to change the unit size for the entire website and adjust font sizes and spacing everywhere on every page, or we could just use our own unit just to make the service card look similar to what we similar to what designers provided us. And we opted for the second approach because that could give us faster results. Again, we could not risk just redesigning the entire website, changing the base unit on that. We spent a couple of weeks on such a small design element, and after that we thought that we know enough to try to design an entire category page. The category page looks like that. This is the current design, and we had a design for that, and when we started implementing it, at that time the filters that you see here, they used to be in the sidebar on the left, and the main content area had 3 cards. The designers designed for us really nice looking filters, but we immediately understood that we can't even do that. So we just implemented the layout that was provided to us and decided that we will think how to implement the new UX a bit later. So after working on those 3 things, we discovered that we have a lot of unused and duplicate styles. We have inconsistent coding styles in our style sheets. Previous developers tried to use BEM sometimes, but even then they were inconsistent in naming the blocks, elements, and modifiers. And so we were trying to use BEM everywhere and be consistent with the style, at least to separate the new code from the old one. We also did a lot of small refactorings, like replacing literals and constants with variables, using some simple mixings. So I also want to mention that an interesting work pattern emerged when we worked on those tasks. We first planned our work, then we refactored existing functionality, and then we shipped refactored code without anything new. And then we worked on something new, on those new styles. And then we get back to planning. It worked really well for us, and we decided to keep following that. So as I mentioned before, we realized that we have so much technical debt that it really terribly slows us down. So we decided to spend as much time as possible on refactoring. So we could deduplicate CSS. We deleted unused styles and images. We reduced the number of page layouts, and we made all the public web pages of the website use only one set of styles. And by public pages, I mean the pages which are indexable by Google and which are accessible by unauthenticated users. Before that, we had two styles. One set of styles was living in our separate style guide. We called it Smock. And the other public pages were using the old, actually not the old, the second version of the styles which lived in the Rails app itself. And we wanted to upgrade all that is possible to upgrade. We spent about maybe 3 weeks on that, and the results were really good. We finally had just one style guide for all the public pages. We had much simpler front-end code. The pages were ready so that we could responsify them. That was the term that we invented for that process. And what was really good, that was really telling us that we are on the right way, conversion rate has increased over that time, because the pages become faster, some issues were fixed, and as a result, people started to buy more services on Envato Studio. So we were ready to at least try to make the pages mobile friendly, so the website could be usable on smartphones. But at that time, we had two big choices to make. We had to decide, either we just evolve our style guide to be mobile friendly, or we could just pick a third-party CSS framework and build on top of that. Another choice was how we could responsify the pages. Shall we just pick one page, make it mobile friendly, then pick another page and make it mobile friendly, or we should just, let's say, change the header of the web page, make it responsive, change the hero bar on the page, change the main content, make it responsive, and then the footer. So by the end of this process, every part of every page will eventually become mobile friendly and responsive. As for selecting the third-party framework, we had three options. We were thinking about Bootstrap, about Zerp Foundation, and Semantic UI. We decided that Bootstrap 3 is too old for us. Bootstrap 4 is just is an alpha. Zerp Foundation, we thought it's a bit too complicated for us. Semantic UI looked promising. It's a new and good-looking framework. I'm not sure if many people use that. So we decided to do a spike with Semantic UI. We rebuilt our homepage, and it took us a couple of days to build something which looks almost like our original homepage. And we also did a spike for a couple of days. We tried to make one of the simple pages responsive with the styles that we already have. And it also worked very well. So we were thinking, shall we pick third-party styles, or shall we continue working on our own styles? And we opted for finer control and flexibility over faster delivery. So we decided to use our style guide. And as for page-by-page and element versus element process, we wanted to see results as soon as possible. That's why we decided that we will rather work on page-by-page basis and ship them as they're ready. And yeah, because in this case, we would see the results relatively soon, and we would be able to pause work and resume it at any time. So as we made this decision, we then had to decide which pages we start working first. And we thought that let's optimize the main purchase funnel, main purchase flow for our end users, so that they really can buy things on smartphones. So people could start. We found out that our most popular landing page is one of the category pages. So people land on pages which list services like infographics design, logo design, and so on. You can see it on the left. Then they land on service page. Sorry, they land on service category page. Then they pick a service, they go to service page, and then they click order service button, the orange one, and they land on checkout page. So these three pages had to be made responsive first, and then we could make all other pages responsive. What you can see here is the new and updated design. So at that stage, we had to work with a new process. We first decided that we'll plan our work, then we'll deliver new functionality as soon as possible so we can see the results, and then we will refactor what we have just built. And then we'll go back to planning. And that helped us to deliver the pages which were already usable on mobile, but had some minor glitches, some minor issues, which was all right because functionality was already better than it used to be. And it gave us a chance to see how people react to the change, if conversion increases, and it helped us. And we also knew that we can refactor that and fix all those edge cases next day or in a couple of days later after we ship something new. And that also worked very well. Oh, sorry. Right. So yeah, when we made those three types of pages responsive, we achieved some really good outcomes. So first of all, of course, they were responsive, and then we significantly reduced the size of our CSS. Instead of 3 compiled CSS, which our style guide produced, we had just 1, which was at least which was at least 2 times smaller than original 3 files, and we had a 15% increase in conversion rate. And this is really beyond all our expectations, because we were hoping that if we have 10% increase, that would be really good. But we got 15, and we got the biggest increase we got from one particular change, and I want to elaborate on that a little bit, because I think this is a really good example how a feature, which may seem to be really cool and nice to have, and maybe kind of seen as something that is really useful for the end users, actually negatively affects performance of the product. This is our home page again. In the old design, we had a background video instead of this pattern, and this video was always downloaded when the user was landed on when the user landed on the page. And this web page was this video was about 4 megabytes, so every user had to download that. In addition to that, we had an explainer video. You can see this how it works button here. So on most of the pages, on most of the public pages, visitor could click on that link and could see the explainer video, what this product is about, how you can use it, and what it gives you, and so on. And we were preloading this image, and it was also a few megs. So we thought, how many people are actually using that? And we had this data in Google Analytics, and we checked that only 2% of our users actually ever watched that video, but 100% of them actually downloaded that. So we decided to remove the video from the homepage, replace it with a pattern, and we stopped preloading this image. And immediately after we made that change, our conversion increased by 5% on average. And that was just really massive win, which was actually achieved not by adding some functionality, but by removing that. So time was spent by previous developers and adding that, and it was actually harming the product. So it's really a good example of how something which seems to be nice to have may actually be bad. Yeah, and once we made most important pages responsive, we could actually start with the redesign. And we picked the simplest page for that. That was service provider page or freelancer page. And then we wanted to work on the service page, and currently we're working on the home page. So this is the new service provider page. Now it has the new design. It looks good on mobile. It's the screen of iPhone 6 Plus. Yeah, so that's good progress. At that stage, another designer a developer from another team joined our team to help us working with that. And by observing his progress, it was really incredible because in less than 2 weeks, he was able to apply the new design to 2 pages. And those pages had a lot of elements, and they needed a lot of testing on mobile and on desktop browsers. And that was literally incredible compared to where we started just 6 or 7 months ago. And that was achieved after all our refactorings that we have done before. At that stage, we worked with our designers a lot, and we very soon realized that in order to not produce waste from designer side or from our side, not to produce a lot of work which gets eventually thrown away, we need to explain very clearly the goal of each page for the designers, because they are not really working every day with our team. They know very little about this product. They have their own view of what its pages should look like, while not only developers, but also our product people, our customer experience people, we know the use cases, we could explain them, we knew the edge cases. For example, some of the providers could have 20 services, and they had to be listed on this page. Some of them had really long description like this one. Some of them had just literally nothing there. Some of them had just one service, and so on. We also had to explain evolution and the kind of past evolution of the page, and how this page might evolve in the future. And it was really important for us to invite customer experience people to participate in meetings with the designers, because they were like representatives of our end users. They knew what issues they were facing, and they could explain us what they are trying to achieve on each of the pages. And yeah, they knew a lot of that because they had spent about more than a year working with our end users, supporting them. So, kind of recap. When we started all this redesign process, we started with the spikes because we wanted to understand what is actually going to be involved in this work, because the product is pretty big Rails monolith, really hard to manage, especially for a team of 2 developers who started that. Started that process. Then we did some refactoring to improve, to kind of pay out the tech debt that we accumulated. Then we spiked responsive design to understand what would actually work best. Then we migrated a website, most of the pages to responsive design, and then we did actual redesign. And at stage 4, we haven't migrated each and every page. For example, our home page is still non-responsive, and some of the miscellaneous pages like About Us, our license terms, and all these less important pages, they are still not responsive. They still have some improvements in the design, but they are not using this. They don't have this new design. And the reason for that is that they are not that important for our product in terms of converting. They're not that popular. People don't land there from search engines, and people don't land on those pages from other Envato products. So we can assign kind of lower priority to those pages. So the lessons learned. A team of 2 developers can, plus some external help from other people in the company, can actually do a lot. Having a long-term vision, like those goals which I mentioned at the very beginning of my presentation, And having detailed short-term plan for the next few days, or maybe a week or two, really helps to stay on track and understand what is the most important thing to work on next. Involving user experience, customer experience, product people, and developers into discussions about redesign or major UI changes really helps, because each of those people have the different perspectives and they look at the product from very different angle. And when they talk to each other, they very quickly find a lot of potential issues, and they find the ways how to achieve the goals faster. It's really important to ship early and ship often, because that helps the team to see the progress and situations when developers work for a couple of months on something and then management says that, yeah, we don't see any progress, let's stop that work. It doesn't happen because everyone sees that the project is live and people are working. And it's actually very true that if page load time goes down, conversion rate goes up, and UX is very important for product success, because as we've made those changes, we made the pages faster and we improved the UX, our conversion rate went up and we received some good feedback from our users. The systems, the technical systems have to be optimized for agility, because it's really hard to know really hard to predict how the product gonna evolve even in the next, let's say, half a year or a year. That's why the system have to be ready more or less to pivot, even not maybe dramatically, but significantly change the focus of the work. It's really bad to accumulate tech debt. It's evident. It's really good to have to use the latest versions of third-party tools where possible, and upgrade them often, because late upgrades can be very expensive. And if new technology is supported by your end users, for example, like Flexbox, then they should be used, because they save a lot of time for developers and make everything much simpler. Thank you. And for those who would like to use Envato Studio, please use this discount code. It gives you 30% off. It's valid till 12th of October, so it's valid for about 7 days. Thank you.